favorite driller from Chicago?
Big Wise, Young Money shit, man. Wick is lit, coming soon. We out here in Cali vibing with no jumper, man, you know? Go f with him.
That be going crazy.
I know I be trolling. I'm gonna show you how to troll, though. Come on.
That nigga dead, nobody care about what he did or what he said. Man, his homie killing ends, but shit, at least them niggas slid. I can't tell you what I did, no cap, cause most of them niggas dead. I can't tell you what I did, cause I'll probably be in the feds, gang shit. Better ask about drill wick, I change shit, change whips, hit a few niggas up with the same blick. I just ran up 30,000 last week, ain't changed fits. When it's violence in my community, you already know they blame wick. Hey, Keno felt that fat could run no more, he thought it was over. 2 Glocks on like 2 pistols, he knew it was a close one. Goofy came my block, he got one off, but now he toasted. Glock 23, I call it tally, cause this bitch a blower. Druid really grew up my overtext and I ignored her. Take pictures with all my fans, fuck that, my supporters. Start my bitch a biz, she scratch her goals and I support her. Call my phone's 100 in, what's the order? Boy, this shit ain't new to me, I been spending on the ops. Druid, he a bastard, I ain't grow up with a pops. I was out, ditching school, testing my accuracy on they block. They say, why they call you drills? Cause I really been on the lot. Shooters know the shooters, and the killers know the killers. You niggas don't look familiar, I don't know none of you niggas. And I'm jumping out on feet, but caught my first one out the window. And if we ain't DOA him, then he was fighting in a spittle. Seen shit walk him down, the gun jammed, he thought it was over. Merely died, a nigga hit in his head, but God was over him. Rocket had put fin them niggas crazy cause he folded. Ten ain't had to say shit when he got that room, but he told it. Boy, this shit ain't new to me, I been spending on the ops. You niggas ain't kill shit, videos the only thing you drop. I'm a low-end terrorist, I really spit every block. Call me Druid, Osama, I done went up on all the ops. That nigga dead, nobody care about what he did or what he said. Man, his homie killing ends, but shit, at least them niggas slid. I can't tell you what I did, no cap, cause most of them niggas dead. I can't tell you what I did, cause I'll probably be in the feds.
Every big one.
I've been driving a cab here for 30 years, and I'm telling you, you don't walk around here at night. Yes, sir. It'll kill you and strip you in 10 seconds flat.
I'm a trophy round this bitch, nigga. They call me big homie. Master level, bro, you drop me, you get like 10 bodies. Payroll let you celebrate it. Don't be his 10 body. Undefeated heavyweight, nigga, I think I'm big baby. Half a brick, slapped it all grams, these horns go crazy. Slap his bitch, knock down his mans, Javante Davis. We hang niggas, cab the clan, come get your shit painted. Drop bodies and bags to plan, ain't nothing gon' change me. Rambo, I stand on my name, they know I pop shit. Dirty choppers at my mama house, she know we drop shit. Get in those streets, take who come with it. You bet not snitch, we slump shit everywhere in my city. I cannot flip. In the cell, 8 with his mans looking at his portrait. Like, damn, cuz, what happened to him? I know you salty. Sugar turn to shit, you get static with your partner. They start scratching with some pits. He can't shake up out that coffin. They was calling, trying to squash it. Don't want war with us. Mama house blew up. Dude got his noodle touched. At Geno's caught him lacking. Took my 40, smacked him up. Man, y'all lucky we is on camera. I'd have built your ass up. We started stepping around this bitch. I bet they vouch for it. Little niggas look up to me. Don't know we dropped they big homies. Out of town hunt niggas. I always got my stick on me. I took a life for niggas. Took some shit from me. Gangsters moving silence. We don't post nothing. I promote violence. They go smoke some. Shaquille O'Neal with an AR Gillos and go post up. My baby 24. R.I.P. Kobe. He gon' show up. Sit you next to Kobe, brother. Then scratch off doing donuts. Let Giants sleep. Why y'all won't come fuck with me? These niggas spinning around, think they tough as me. Shooting shit from up the street. How could you ever think that you had nuts like these? Gonna be another chapter in our killing spree. Payroll, how you catch me, bro? You go crazy, I'm still stepping though. Smack the shit with hollows back to back and watch this head come off. 19, he got bodies, a real gangster. Gang, I'm vouching for him. They know my name, I do this bitch for crushing shit. I ain't no local joke. Drop me, you gon' die. Bet my brother smoking shit, one of them niggas. Know my son gon' be a man character with his switch complete that mission. You ain't right about your brother, but if I smack one of your bitches on camera, your pussy ass probably be laying in my bushes. We stay dangerous when in the chamber, bro. My mama raised a gangster. I'ma die dying. They gon' have my funeral at a stadium. It's us or y'all. I don't trust a soul. My city small, everybody related. Got cousins and brothers we don't know about. Lot of niggas getting money, I don't matter. Killers control the clout. I had static with millionaires when I was worth for ounce, couldn't get me dropped popped, I still got my glizzy out. Jumping, I'll be getting down. We hit the whole city with choppers, don't come through here. Playing around, my papa shot my daddy, cause it's in my blood to slang his arm. Long way from 8 balls, all that money gon' put us over the top. If you ain't CAB, you a op. That's just how we rock, race killers in the ghetto, call out of town, they come through, pop your top, nigga. You a op, that's just how we rock, race killers in the ghetto, call out of town, they come through, pop your top.
I talked to say he told me killed him in my way. Bounce out on his block with Drake and Blast. He run, he done that chop, eat up his face. We do his and bounce back in them cars. We right back towards the 8. Bitches claim they love me, they just love that sack. I made her wait. We scratch out the scene and this bitch get the stream and this is straight. Ski on, they ain't see me. I'm dogging the demon past the Jake. Don't claim that you need me, you just want that cheese and I'm gonna make you wait. Threw her up and he went easy. Happy he grabbed a bait. They call me go cause I stand on all 10 and I go get shit done. I don't care about niggas. I could treat them boys just like my son. I pop out switch on me, FN on me, play, then you done. You know how we bounce out on your block, we hop out chopsticks, please don't run. Told that bitch she come suck me up, I might toss her some huns. We get bored, it ain't shit else to do, so we go on some hunts. We suit up, we go load up the clips, fuck the stick, grab the drum. Catch a face and I'm gon' whack her, put his bitch ass in that trunk. We gon' spin, it's like 3 o'clock, but we ain't tired. One of my brothers jump your gate and you play crazy, then you die. Let's play faces red, I keep telling 30, don't join the lie. Lil D chases it, brought my twin cause we get real salami. I put that gin up to his face, he closed his eyes. Lil folks got a face shot and somehow up to this damn day he's still alive. How your gun, nigga, cause this the rack and most just don't survive. Out that window with that jerko playing pros and cons line. We chase face cars, I heard that ESO come with like 10. We gon' still take that little scrap fuck if it's Goks, Lock or a gin. I love Ben Frank, I think me and bro could be best friends. Heard he died for this gang, I bet he won't do that again. Switchy smack his face, Drenchy switch the lanes, watch how this go. Niggas ain't any blunt, they scraps, let's be for real, them boys some hoes. We hit Parnell so much at this point, I'ma just say we own it. How they say they spinning blocks, we spin 8 blocks, they ain't even on them.
We ride AMGs and tracks, ain't none stolen. Drakes up on our trail, we give them hell, we forever rollin'. Catch a face, we leave them bait. For that pay, no throwaways. F&N's and Drakes, leave them late. Tavy demon time, no time to waste. Fredo twin up, we grew up on the 8. We some headhunters, for that paper. Call them 6 in the morning, like pop out, we got a face. Caught that face, SRT track talk, no matter, we getting away. Fuck the Jakes, fuck the steak. E-way barely touch my brake. After we fuck, you gotta get up. Hell no, you can't touch my face. Keep my Drake, SRT, we dogging down the whole 8. Lil' Rob called me like pop out, we got it straight. Now we straight.
Hey man, what up, man? It's Shalowski, man. On gang. Shout out to all the real niggas, real bitch, real wild, you did. Y'all already know what's going on, man. Real niggas in this bitch. Real bitches in this bitch, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to my nigga K-Pack, stretch niggas out there latex. Shout out to my nigga No Cuts, No Edits. What's good, my boy? Man, I'm cool and golden, trying to shoot everything moving, you know what I'm talking about? Really cool, and I was gonna do the Young Thug, Trap Lord Ross shit. But they said 2 hours, yeah, they did it 3 hours. Gee, by the time I stop, pause shit, and talk my shit, bro, it's gonna be 7 o'clock in the morning, bro, when I'm done, bro. You know, I'll be out tomorrow, don't worry about that. It's gonna be an early stream, so y'all better be in this bitch. I will leave it up tomorrow, but no diddy, but not like that. But they, I mean the raisins and shit. I had just a third flu, boy. I feel like I drank some. Boy, I feel like I popped the Xanax. I almost went to sleep on y'all niggas in this fucking. Do you know how hard it was? Do you know how hard it was now for me to lay down across my bed, nigga, while this intro was playing? Man, y'all would have been sitting here, man. I would just loop that motherfucker, bro. I would have been sleeping because the intro went on for 3 hours. I would have never got up. Shout out to my white baby mama keeping me up. Man, we got back together and shit, you know, nigga shit. And yeah, what the fuck was talking about? Oh yeah, let's take it to the right. We'll go to the north side, man, home of Pappy and the Cubs. What up, Jenny? Jen, Janai, RP Charlie Kirk. Everybody's saying that, bro. I don't know. Is that a girl name or a man's name? I don't know how to pronounce it. Jenny is a girl. Janaya. Well, it's not a girl name both ways. It could be a nigga name too. Well, it's hard. Fuck Charlie Kirk. It's crazy. Like, I don't know what the nigga got going on. Never heard the nigga until today. You know what I'm saying? I ain't able to sit here and bap to y'all, but we finna do this young pappy shit though, you know? Every time they tried to kill him, someone else died. Well, until he actually died. Nah, that nigga died by himself, dog. That's gonna be on this black plat to RP Charlie. What's good, gang members? I still got the members in this bitch today. Why would I put the hallway there? That's not what I'm trying to do. Yeah, there we go. Oh yeah, I got a black screen for a minute. Hold on, definitely. I'll be doing some shit. I forgot how to undeaf it, y'all. Oh my god. Jesus Christ, I really forgot how to undeaf it. Oh, hold on, I think I remember. No, I don't. Oh, there I go. Okay, I finally fucking undeafened myself because I promise y'all I forgot how to do that shit. Alright, let's take it to the rack, man.
It was past 1:30 in the morning on North Kenmore Avenue, the street looking calm enough to hear your own footsteps, when the sound of gunfire broke the silence and left a body on the pavement. Folks in Uptown woke up to flashing lights and police tape, and word started spreading before sunrise that it might be the same rapper who had dodged death twice before, the same rapper whose name kept showing up in police reports and rival crews' social media posts, and whose survival had already cost 2 other people their lives. By breakfast, his name was on everybody's lips, but the story didn't start there. To understand how Shaquan Young...
But I hate when they use AI for shit like this. You can actually do this shit yourself, bro. Just a white dude with good pop, who had good pop. Oh, you talking about... Are you talking about, Oh, that's who, Charlie Kirk was? Alright. RP Charlie Kirk.
Pappy Thomas ended up on that block. You have to go back to the very beginning. Shaquan Thomas came into the world on May 10th, 1995, in the far north of Chicago, in a neighborhood called Rogers Park, a place with tree-lined streets, old apartment buildings, and a mix of cultures that gave it energy but also tension. His mother, Ingrid Thomas, was raising him in a modest apartment, doing her best to keep him and his brothers on track, while his father stayed in nearby Edgewater, not far from the lake. Rogers Park was a long way from the South Side blocks most people think about when they talk about Chicago's gang wars. But by the time Shaquan was growing up, it had its own map of dangerous corners and shifting lines. In the early 2010s, the North Side had smaller sections running their own beats, with crews claiming a few blocks and treating them like kingdoms. Rogers Park and nearby Uptown had an identity some locals called the North Pole, a name tied to being at the city's tip, but also claimed proudly by certain young crews. Among them was a group that would define much of Pappy's life, the insane cutthroat gangsters, a branch of the gangster disciples. In January 2012, one of their members, nicknamed Pooh Bear, was killed, and the crew took on a new name in his memory, calling themselves PBG, short for Pooh Bear Gang. PBG wasn't a giant organization with hundreds of members. It was a tight circle of around 20 young men, mostly from the same streets, who treated each other like brothers. For Shaquan, it was family in more ways than one, since his older brother Ryan, better known later as Boo Double, was already part of it. His youngest brother Tavion, who would later go by Tay-Sav, was still a kid at that point, but looking up to his older siblings and soaking in everything they did. From the jump,
Tay-Sav get hair like an alien, bro.
Shaquan had music in him. Family members said he was rapping
These
by age
like
4,
Africans.
Learning from Ryan,
Like
who was already playing with rhymes and beats. By the
That's
time
Boo Double,
Shaquan
that
was
white
12,
tee, that nigga like
he was
a faggot.
confident enough to freestyle on camera, and a grainy 2007 clip of him doing exactly that would resurface years later, showing the beginnings of the rapid, unpredictable flow he became known for.
This nigga, yo, Pappy look like a Hoover with that one just like that.
Pappy. He was just another grandson. Around his friends, he was the kid who could spit clever lines without breaking a sweat. His mother, Ingrid, would later say the young Pappy persona wasn't the real Shaquan. but a mask he wore to survive the streets he was moving through.
Okay.
She believed he learned early that looking soft in Rogers Park or Uptown could get you picked on.
Bro, Rogers Park
and the
is
tough,
soft as
armed,
baby
ready
shit.
for anything image was a way of telling people not to mess with him. Still, it's hard to live inside a mask without it becoming part of you.
Y'all
And
think
as
that
Shaquan
shit
got
tough for
older,
y'all is crazy.
the line between the act and his real self started to blur. By middle school, trouble had already found him. There was the time he got caught with marijuana at school, a turning point that almost got him expelled until his mother fought to keep him enrolled. He picked up small charges here and there, disorderly conduct, curfew violations, little fights that landed him in juvenile detention for short stints. Ingrid felt the system wasn't doing much to help him. They'd release him back into the same environment without giving him tools to change it. And outside, that environment was already pulling him toward the street life that was rising alongside the drill music wave, sweeping the city. Shaquan was smart, talented, and restless. And in Rogers Park, that mix could either build you or break you. The next few years would show just how far both paths could go when they're running side by side. By the time Shaquan was moving into his late teens, Chicago was already deep in the sound of drill music, and the city's underground was shifting with that wave. Chief Keef had dropped I Don't Like and put a spotlight on the South Side, while names like Lil...
I don't know. Some say Diddy World killed him. Some say the Hoolies killed him. I don't know.
Dirk and G Herbo were building their own lanes, and that raw street energy was moving through neighborhoods far from where it started. And
I believe so. Is he dead?
Yeah, Shorty a Pappy.
Is dead.
They clapped his ears together.
Rogers Park, young Pappy was building something that felt like the North Pole version of that movement, drawing from his own block and his own crew. Pappy had a way of rapping that stuck with you, switching up patterns mid-verse, and then landing back on the beat like he never left it. And the way he carried his words had a natural bite to it. His energy on the mic made every bar sound urgent, and when you paired that with his blunt lyrics, it came across like a direct message to whoever was listening. There was no holding back in what he said, and that made the songs hit harder for his listeners. By 2013 and 2014, his music was moving fast on YouTube and SoundCloud, with tracks like Killer and Homicide turning into anthems for PBG. The videos weren't studio polished. They showed him outside with the crew throwing signs, naming names, and making it known exactly who they were talking about. The circle stayed tight in those visuals, with Boo Double playing the big brother role on tracks, and in the streets, Bang Da Hitter adding his own intensity. Lil Sean showing up as a regular voice, and PBG Spaz holding his spot in the lineup. The music connected with people, but the way Pappy and his crew used social media turned it into something bigger. YouTube views climbed into the thousands quickly, and clips spread on Facebook and Twitter, where people either backed him up or took shots at him. That constant back and forth online became part of the scene, with Pappy engaging in what police later called cyberbanging. His posts and videos sometimes named rival crews like Lock City or Hula Gang directly, clowning them for missing their targets, which brought more eyes to his pages and more attention to the streets. In Chicago's climate at the time, those online words didn't stay online for long. Screenshots of posts and comments circulated through group chats, and crews took them as challenges to be answered in person. For Pappy, each post was both promotion and provocation, and police began to track his online activity closely. They argued that it was part of what kept violence flowing, pointing to his exchanges with rivals as examples. Even as his music picked up more attention, legal trouble kept slowing him down. His record filled with misdemeanors, and officers on the north side knew his face well enough to pull him over or stop him on sight. Some charges stuck, others fell apart, but every time it happened, it pulled him out of the studio and into courtrooms. People managing him said it was hard to keep him focused on recording for long stretches because something on the street or another police run-in would pull him away. That constant push and pull shaped his rise in real time. The music gave him an escape and a platform, but the street still had a hold on him, and his crew's loyalty meant his name stayed tied to everything PBG did. For Pappy, every verse was a way to tell their story, to mark their place on the map, and to send a message to rivals. Each release had the potential to open new opportunities, but it also brought fresh attention from people looking for him offline, making his climb as risky as it was fast. In Chicago's northside street politics, beef wasn't always clean lines of one nation against another, and Pappy's world was for that.
I remember seeing a nigga where I ain't gonna say his name, you know,
grudges,
that's
but
fool, but man, folks had them broke ass DTLR joggers, what?
You had moments where a folk nation set would be at war with another folk set, and that meant GDs going at GDs while still keeping animosity toward rival nations alive. Rogers Park was locked in its own set of conflicts, and PBG was in the middle of almost all of them. The main enemies for PBG during Pappy's rise were the conservative vice lords, the Black P Stones, Lock City, and Hula Gang. Each name carried its own weight, and each brought a different history to the fight. The conservative vice lords had a presence in the uptown and west side areas, with connections and alliances that stretched into other neighborhoods. The Black P Stones had been one of Chicago's most established and feared groups since the late 1960s.
Say something again.
Yo.
All right, now we get you.
No, I was saying, boy, nigga with them emoji joggers, boy, he got them Family Dollar boxes, boy.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Dirty, boy.
Yeah, Family Dollar. Hey, boy, yeah, them shits is...
Family Dollars on top of some emoji joggers, boy. That shit dangerous.
That's crazy.
Yeah, dog been fucked up all his life, dog. Yeah, ain't no change in him. Yeah, ain't no change in him. He fucked up. Yeah, his path already been rigged.
Yeah, this boy, fucking
and
right.
Side members were not disconnected from the bigger structure. Lock City, which claimed territory near Howard Street, was especially close to PBG in geography, which meant the chances for run-ins were high. Hula Gang, claiming from the area around Magnolia and Sunnyside, also shared that north side proximity, and their name would keep coming up in some of the city's ugliest headlines. The violence wasn't just about territorial boundaries, it was also about personal losses. In 2012, the murder of Pooh Bear, the young member whose name inspired the Pooh Bear gang identity, cut deep into PBG. Pooh Bear's real name was Shaquille Tony, and he was shot and killed in the 1400 block of Westland Avenue in Rogers Park. His death was blamed on rival gang members, and for PBG, that wasn't something to just be remembered. It was something to be answered. From that point, the back and forth with their enemies was fueled by something heavier.
You had them jockers, I feel bad for you guys. Those were some tough days back then, huh?
Because it wasn't just the loss of a friend. It was the loss of someone whose name was tied to the identity they carried in every song and video. In his tracks, Pappy kept Pooh Bear's name alive, and in the streets, the crew made sure the rivals knew the score was still open. That loss deepened the blood feud with groups like Lock City and Hula Gang, who were viewed not only as competitors, but as enemies to be publicly humiliated. Pappy had a habit of turning that humiliation into public entertainment. That was where his style became dangerous. He would go on social media or drop lyrics in a track that mocked the aim of his rivals, clowning them for missing shots or freezing up when they had a chance. These weren't coded disses. They were direct with names, locations, and incidents woven into the lines. In the North Side drill scene, that kind of taunting didn't just build buzz, it turned the temperature up in real life. For example, after surviving one attempt on his life that left a bystander dead, Pappy went online with a laugh about how the shooters couldn't hit their target. The post would get shared and reposted, drawing reactions from both supporters and enemies, and in some cases, even family members of the people he mocked. That cycle of public disrespect made it nearly impossible for tensions to cool down, because every video or status update was like throwing fuel on a fire that was already burning. The Chicago Police Department began referring to this as technological kerosene because the internet was acting like an accelerant for violence. Officers working gang units said they could watch disputes escalate in real time through Facebook posts, YouTube comments, and Instagram stories. In their view, the music videos and online taunts were directly tied to the shootings that followed, and in Pappy's case, they had multiple incidents where a video went up and a retaliatory attack happened days or even hours later. Hula Gang, in particular, was on the receiving end of a lot of Pappy's public shots. They were based in Uptown, and their members had already been in back-and-forth conflicts with PBG over various street incidents. The way Pappy spoke on them in his songs made those issues public record, and their members responded in kind. Lock City faced the same treatment, with their name coming up in tracks that circulated well beyond the North Side. It wasn't uncommon for these crews to be in the comments under each other's videos, trading insults and threats for everyone to see. The rivalry with the conservative vice lords was shaped by both direct encounters and the broader politics of Chicago gangs. CVLs on the North Side often found themselves in situations where alliances and beefs overlapped, meaning they could be aligned with one group against PBG, but have their own separate issues elsewhere. With PBG, the main friction points were street-level run-ins and the way members would call each other out online. That constant stream of public jabs meant that even small disputes had the potential to spiral quickly. Black P Stones had history that went deeper, and while their North Side presence wasn't as large as in some South Side neighborhoods, they had individuals who were respected and connected. Clashes with PBG members often took place in neutral zones like bus stops, parks, or outside convenience stores, where a chance encounter could turn into a fight or shooting. Those moments would then find their way into lyrics, creating another loop of music feeding the beat. From 2013 onward, these rivalries became inseparable from Pappy's identity as an artist. Fans who didn't know the full details of the street politics could still pick up on the fact that he was speaking directly to people, and in the drill scene, that authenticity was part of the appeal. The danger was that for every person impressed by the boldness, there was someone else taking it as a personal challenge. The violence tied to these rivalries didn't just touch those involved. It spilled over into the lives of bystanders. Innocent people were caught in crossfire, and the neighborhood tension meant that anyone moving through certain blocks had to be aware of what colors or faces they might be seen with. In interviews, Pappy's own family members talked about the constant anxiety of knowing he was a target and that the people targeting him might not care who else was in the way. Even as the danger grew, Pappy leaned into the role of the outspoken frontman for PBG. He wasn't just dropping music for the sake of a career. He was using every track to talk his talk and let rivals know exactly where he stood. For police and community leaders, that made him a prime example of how the drill music scene and street conflicts were feeding each other. For his fans, it made him one of the most authentic voices out of the North Side. Someone who lived and rapped without a filter. These rivalries would define the next few years of Pappy's life, setting the stage for multiple attempts on him and shaping the way the city remembered his name. Every shout out.
Hey yo, check this out. Gang, shout out to my nigga. I believe that's Kevin. Was that Kevin? Nah, it wasn't. It was my nigga K-Pack. Shout out to my nigga K-Pack to the first super chat cash app. Gang, gang, gang. He took the first reaction in of the night, besides, you know, the main course, of course.
Perspective with back.
Alright, now let me see. Young Moose OTM freestyle. Shout out Young Moose. What the fuck? What am I doing? Oh man, I ain't gonna clap for this shit. Young Moose OTM freestyle. Okay. Five. Hey, y'all, what's more reaction? Please send them in, y'all. Let's go.
Every diss and every reference in a verse became part of a larger story that was being written in both music and violence, and the ending was still far from sight. The winter air in Rogers Park carried.
He got paid. That's as he should. All right. Shout out to that boy, Young Moose.
On that February night in 2014, the sidewalks near the McDonald's on Howard Street were slick with patches of old ice. It was the kind of night when most people hurried between the bus stop and their front doors. But for young Pappy and his close friend Markeo Carr, the pull of late-night food and conversation outweighed the cold. They had been hanging out, moving between familiar spots in the neighborhood when they decided to slide over to the McDonald's lot, a place where people from different blocks sometimes cross paths. Pappy was already building his name.
Everybody go to McDonald's,
nigga. Around the neighborhood was
you know, we gonna see at McDonald's.
He rolled with an energy that made people notice, but it also made him a magnet for attention he didn't want. Markeo, 19 years old, was one of those friends who had known him well before the music videos and the growing buzz. Their bond went back to days when they were just kids in Rogers Park, long before the beats got so public and the stakes so high. That night, the glow from the McDonald's sign lit up the lot in a pale yellow. The snow piled in messy ridges against the curbs. The sound of the drive-through speaker cut through the air every few minutes, mixing with the occasional blast of music from passing cars. People inside were talking over trays of fries.
I should have thought. You see, I'm dozing. I'm like,
huddled in jackets and hoodies. Pappy and Markeo weren't inside long before they decided to step back out.
Hey, that's what had that cash up. Let's get it.
Leaning against the cold metal of a car as they talked. It happened fast. A figure in dark clothing moved toward the lot, their face hidden behind a mask. The only thing visible was the shape of the gun as the shooter raised it and opened fire. The sound cracked through the cold, bullets snapping past metal and glass. In those chaotic seconds, people dove for cover, some hitting the ground, others scrambling toward the building. Markeo took the brunt of it, hit multiple times before he could even move away from the car. Three others, including Pappy, were struck as the shooter kept firing, the rounds tearing into the stillness of the night. Pappy caught a bullet in the arm, the pain immediate and sharp, but it wasn't enough to drop him. He scrambled for safety, moving toward the building with his arm clutched tight, the cold air burning against the wound. The shooter disappeared as quickly as they had come, vanishing into the streets beyond the glow of the lot. When the police arrived, the lot was a mess of shattered glass. blood on the pavement, and the sound of sirens bouncing off the surrounding buildings. Paramedics worked quickly, but for Markeo, the wounds were too severe. He was pronounced dead not long after, leaving PBG without one of their own, and Pappy without a friend he had grown up alongside. The news traveled fast, hitting phones and social media before the police even cleared the scene. PBG members started showing up, some in disbelief, others already talking about revenge. In the days that followed, the neighborhood was heavy with tension. The funeral brought together friends, family, and members of allied crews, all standing under the weight of another loss in a city already carrying too many. For Pappy, the anger was sharper than the pain in his arm. He wasn't just dealing with the loss of Markeo, he was watching how the media was talking about it. News reports focused on gang connections and violent patterns, painting the scene as another statistic in Chicago's cycle of shootings. To him, it felt like they were erasing the person Markeo had been, reducing him to just another headline. Police were already calling the situation another example of what they had started referring to as technological kerosene, their term for how social media was fueling real-life violence. They believed the shooting was tied to the online back and forth between PBG and rival crews, and to them, it was just the latest flare-up in a feud that had been simmering for years. They warned that more was likely to come, both to Pappy directly and to the neighborhood as a whole. Not long after the funeral, Pappy found himself in more legal trouble. An arrest for reckless conduct landed him in jail for a stretch, pulling him out of the streets but not out of the headlines. Inside, he heard about the shifts happening outside, friends watching their backs more closely, rivals posting thinly veiled taunts online, and the streets heating up again. His time in jail didn't slow the tensions. If anything, it gave people more reason to speculate on what would happen when he got out. The McDonald's shooting wasn't just another incident in the list of attempts on Pappy's life. It was a moment that deepened every line in the sand. It showed how quickly a public space could turn into a shooting gallery, how the beefs that lived online could explode without warning, and how each loss pulled the neighborhood deeper into a cycle that seemed impossible to break. For PBG, it was a call to stand closer together, even as they knew it made them a bigger target. On July 12, 2014, Shaquan Young Pappy Thomas stepped out into that daylight carrying the weight of both his growing notoriety and the danger that came with it. He was in the vicinity of Devon Avenue, a strip that ran through the neighborhood with its mix of small businesses, bus stops, and foot traffic. The time of day and the openness of the area didn't change the fact that his name had been sitting high on certain people's lists. Somewhere nearby, a member of the conservative vice lords named Eric Vaughn spotted Pappy. Vaughn had history in the North Side's network of rivalries, and the connection between his crew and the young shooters who would soon enter the picture was not just casual street chatter. It was part of the chain of alliances and retaliations that shaped much of the violence uptown. Vaughn didn't move alone in this situation. He had two teenage affiliates with him, Denzel Burke, just 18, and Michael Phillips, who was 17. These weren't outsiders. They were products of the same ecosystem of grudges, gang lines, and proving oneself. Witness accounts later painted the image of Vaughn making the call, signaling Burke and Phillips toward the opportunity. The teens took off after Pappy, armed and ready to make their names known in the streets. As Pappy moved down the sidewalk, the chase began, and the stillness of that corner snapped into chaos. Burke and Phillips closed the distance, pulling out their weapons in plain daylight. The street didn't give them cover, but it didn't matter. They were locked in. The first shots cracked in the air, echoing off the brick facades and scattering pedestrians into doorways and behind parked cars. Pappy ran, moving with the desperation of someone who'd seen this play out before, his mind working to calculate distance, corners, and escape routes. Vaughn stayed back as the two teens pushed forward, letting them do the work that could cement his own street standing without putting himself directly on the trigger. 10 rounds went out in those moments, each one sending more people into cover and sending shockwaves through the immediate area. None of them hit Pappy. Not one bullet connected with its intended target, but the street rarely allows for misses to pass without consequence. One of those stray rounds traveled farther than the shooters intended, striking 28-year-old Will Lewis. Lewis wasn't from the streets. He was a photographer, a man building a life with his fiancée, planning to start a family. He had been standing near a bus stop, caught entirely outside of the conflict, and that single bullet ended his life. Lewis's death brought a new kind of attention to the already bloody atmosphere surrounding young Pappy. It wasn't just gang members in danger, it was anyone within range of the violence. The presence of an innocent victim pushed the incident beyond local beef and into the headlines. Alderman Joe Moore, who represented the 49th Ward, later told reporters he had seen part of the chase. Moore described watching a man with a gun running after another man, details that only deepened the shock among residents that this was unfolding in the middle of a busy street during the day. Within hours, police were piecing together the information from witnesses, camera footage, and their own gang intelligence. Vaughn, Burke, and Phillips didn't stay ghosts for long. In the weeks that followed, All three would be arrested and charged in connection to the murder of Will Lewis. For Vaughn, already tied to gang activity, the case stacked more weight onto his record. For Burke and Phillips, their ages became a talking point in the larger conversation about how young some shooters were in Chicago's gang conflicts. The arrest didn't erase the fear left behind on Devon Avenue. Residents who had lived through years of street politics knew this was part of a cycle, one that didn't stop just because someone was taken off the street. For them, the knowledge that an innocent man had been killed while waiting for a bus was a proof that the violence wasn't confined to any one block or one crew's enemies. Conversations in barbershops, corner stores, and front stoops circled back to the same point. If something could go down like that in the open, nobody was untouchable. For Pappy, the Devon Avenue shooting was both a narrow escape and another confirmation of how many people wanted him gone. It reinforced the tension that had been shaping his daily life since the McDonald's shooting months earlier. He didn't slow down on his music or his presence online. In some ways, the incident seemed to add to his persona, giving his supporters more reason to see him as someone who kept surviving while the odds stacked higher. But the other side of that reality was a community left picking up the pieces after another public shooting, another body lost, and more young men staring down decades in prison. The police called social media the technological kerosene on these flames. They had been tracking the online exchanges between PBG and their rivals for months, watching as taunts turned into plans and posts became intelligence. In the Devon Avenue case, the detectives saw it as an extension of that same cycle. The names and faces might shift, but the way the violence unfolded had a pattern: spot, chase, shoot, and deal with the fallout later. Even with arrests made, the incident lived on in both the streets and the digital space. Videos, news clips, and screenshots of the day's events spread online, each share keeping the memory alive and reminding anyone watching that the beef was still active. The loss of Will Lewis became part of that history, both as a tragedy in its own right and as a symbol of the danger surrounding young Pappy's world. That summer, Rogers Park residents carried on with their lives under a shadow that felt heavier. Parents walked their kids home a little faster. Shop owners kept their eyes on the door more often. And for those in PBG, the Devon Avenue shooting joined the list of reasons why every day outside came with decisions about where to be, who to roll with, and how quickly they could move if the wrong car turned the corner. By early 2015, Shaquan Thomas was no longer just a local name inside Rogers Park. His reputation was spilling into other parts of Chicago. And for the police, that meant his file was getting thicker by the week. They already had a record of his run-ins going back to his mid-teens. And by this point, it showed 11 misdemeanors and a felony, the latter tied to a 2013 gun charge, where officers claimed they caught him with an illegal firearm. For the police, this was proof that he was both armed and active. For Pappy and his people, it was just another example of how carrying a gun in their neighborhood was less about choice and more about survival. The increased spotlight on Pappy wasn't only because of his music videos or online presence, it was also because every time there was a shooting involving PBG, his name was somewhere in the conversation, whether he was actually there or not. That type of notoriety made him a high priority target for CPD's gang units. Detectives, tactical teams, and even SWAT started keeping tabs on where he moved, who he hung around, and what events he was planning. In the city's official view, removing him from the streets was part of preventing another headline. One of the biggest moments that showed just how far police were willing to go happened in May 2015, at what was supposed to be a night of celebration for Pappy's latest mixtape release. The event was held in a rented space, with word spreading through social media and local flyers. And for his supporters, it was meant to be a chance to enjoy the music without the drama of the streets. But as the night went on, squads of uniformed officers and heavily armed SWAT members moved in. The raid was quick and overwhelming, with police lining people against walls, searching bags, and handcuffing dozens on site. By the time it was over, 33 people had been arrested. Charges ranged from outstanding warrants to possession of controlled substances. But it was clear that the main point was to disrupt the event entirely. To many who were there, it felt like an ambush meant to send a message that Pappy couldn't gather a crowd without law enforcement showing up. For his mother, Ingrid, the raid was personal. She spoke openly afterward about how she believed the police were targeting her son specifically, using every opportunity to drag him into custody or scatter the people around him. That tension wasn't just between Pappy and the police, it was felt across Uptown and Rogers Park. The neighborhoods were in a fragile state. Gang rivalries had intensified. Shootings were happening in quick bursts, and residents who weren't part of the street life still found themselves ducking bullets or avoiding certain blocks. In that climate, Pappy's rising fame acted like a lightning rod. He attracted attention from supporters, enemies, and the police, often all at the same time. Inside PBG, there were voices trying to steer him away from the cycle. Friends and collaborators pushed him to focus fully on music, arguing that he had a real shot at making it out. They pointed to his growing YouTube numbers, the respect he had from other artists, and the way his name carried weight outside the North Side. To them, the problem wasn't his talent, it was that he couldn't leave the streets alone long enough to let the music work for him. But walking away from that life wasn't as simple as picking a new route home. Every diss track, every online taunt, and every public appearance kept the beefs alive. And for someone like Pappy, whose music thrived on authenticity, staying quiet or invisible wasn't in the plan. Even as the police pressure mounted, he doubled down on showing up in his videos with his crew, making music that called out rival sets by name and refusing to hide in the background. The city, meanwhile, was treating him as both a public safety threat and a potential flashpoint. Intelligence reports passed between gang units painted a picture of an artist whose lyrics were directly tied to ongoing conflicts, and every new song was dissected for clues about upcoming retaliation. When police brass talked about using technological kerosene to describe how social media escalated violence, they were talking about situations exactly like Pappy's. The summer of 2015 was shaping up to be critical. The violence in the neighborhoods wasn't slowing down, and the gap between what the streets wanted from Pappy and what the system wanted for him was growing wider. To his crew, the music was supposed to be the way out. To law enforcement, it was just another reason to keep him under the microscope. By the time May 2015 came around, Pappy had been living with a target on his back for years, and in those last few weeks, it felt like that target was glowing. The streets in Uptown and Rogers Park were tense, with crews on edge and Pappy's name still hot in conversations, police briefings, and social media arguments. The buzz from his recent music kept him in rotation online, but the same attention that fueled his rise was pulling more eyes onto him from people who wanted him gone. On May 21st, 2015, Pappy dropped what would be one of his final releases, the track Shooters, featuring Lil Sean. The beat hit with the kind of energy drill fans expected from him, but it was the content that stood out. The song was more than just a street anthem. It was a direct shot at his enemies, layered with name drops, sly references, and open taunts about their inability to hit their targets. He mocked their aim, bringing up past situations where bullets flew but missed, and the hook made it clear that he saw himself as someone his rivals couldn't touch. The video for Shooters showed Pappy in familiar territory, posted with his crew, repping PBG alongside Lil Sean, who had become one of his consistent collaborators. They flashed signs, rapped straight into the camera with that mix of confidence and defiance, and sent out more of the same coded and uncoded messages that had long been part of their music. For fans, it was another reminder of why Pappy was considered one of the most fearless on the North Side. For rivals, it was another reason to try to prove him wrong. The release came with more than just the music. Around that time, Pappy was still active on social media, posting the same blend of music promotion, casual moments, and cryptic lines. One post in particular stuck with people after the fact. Everything ain't what it seemed. At the time, it was just another short update to his followers, but in hindsight, friends and locals looked back at it as a sign that he might have been feeling the pressure more than he showed. Pappy had always been known for his charisma and his ability to stay composed in situations where most people would be looking over their shoulders. That cool exterior didn't mean he was oblivious to the danger. People close to him said that he knew he had enemies waiting for any chance to catch him slipping, and the fact that he had already survived 2 attempts only made him more aware that the next time could be different. In the neighborhood, conversations were shifting from whether something would happen to when it would happen. Friends described the atmosphere as tense, but not surprising, saying that Pappy's style of calling out enemies by name and mocking them in public had made retaliation almost inevitable. Even people who weren't involved in the beefs directly could sense that the air felt heavier when he was around. The Shooters video, with its unfiltered shots at rivals, didn't cool anything down. If anything, it poured more fuel onto a fire that had been burning for years. Some of his boys told him to focus on the music and stay off the streets, to let the buzz from the track carry him into the next project. They wanted to see him in the studio, not outside where the wrong person could pull up. But for Pappy, the streets and the music were connected, and pulling away from one felt like pulling away from the other. In those final weeks, it wasn't just rivals and friends watching him closely. The police still saw him as a key figure in an ongoing cycle of violence, someone whose presence could trigger a chain reaction. They had already made multiple attempts to keep him off the streets, and every new video, every public appearance, and every social media post was another reason for them to keep tabs on his movements. Despite that pressure, Pappy was still moving through his routines, still recording, still linking up with his crew. The Shooters release gave him more momentum online, and fans were talking about it heavy, breaking down lyrics, sharing the video and quoting the most aggressive lines. But in Chicago, especially in that era of drill, a track that hit that hard was never just entertainment. It was part of the larger conversation in the streets. For some, Shooters was a final statement of who Pappy was, unapologetic, fearless, and willing to say what most wouldn't. For others, it was the sound of someone playing a dangerous game too close to the edge. In either case, it became one of the last pieces of work that people would point to when they talked about his legacy, a track that captured both the talent and the risks that defined his career. Those who were close to him would later say that they could feel the tension building in the days after the video dropped, even if they couldn't put it into words at the time. In Uptown and Rogers Park, there were always whispers, always people moving differently when something was about to happen. And in the weeks after Shooters, those whispers got louder. It was just after 1:30 in the morning when Shaquan Young Pappy Thomas was walking along the 4800 block of North Kenmore Avenue, not far from where he had spent much of his life moving between Uptown and Rogers Park. According to witnesses, the street was quiet enough that the sound of footsteps carried. Somebody came up from behind, not fast and loud like in a chase, quiet, steady, closing in. Then 2 shots cracked the night. One hit Pappy in the back, another tore through him before he could even turn around. A neighbor said they heard a car, dark, possibly black, speed off just seconds later. By the time first responders got to him, Pappy was fighting to breathe, bleeding out on the sidewalk. He was pronounced dead at Advocate Illinois Masonic Medical Center at 2:04 a.m. Within minutes, phones lit up across the north side. Some were calls between family and friends, trying to confirm what they just heard. Others were rivals passing around the news like a trophy. On social media, posts popped up from known enemies mocking his death, while PBG members posted messages of disbelief and rage. In the streets, the question wasn't if someone did it, it was who, and whether it had been a straight-up op or something far messier. The most explosive theory didn't point to a rival gang at all, it pointed inward. The streets started whispering almost immediately that Pappy might have been backdoored, set up by somebody close enough to know his movements that night. Inside setups weren't new in Chicago gang politics, and for someone like Pappy, who had made enemies on every corner, trust was already in short supply. But this theory had weight because of who could have had the right combination of knowledge and access. People pointed to certain PBG affiliates who'd had disagreements with him in the months before his death. Some claimed that there were tensions over money from music. Others said it was over respect, or the lack of it inside the group. Names like PBG, Spaz, and Lil Sean were never officially tied to anything in police reports, but in street talk, they were mentioned alongside others who were in Pappy's circle that spring. One rumor said a female acquaintance, linked both to Pappy and to one of his rivals, might have lured him to that block. Another story had it that a PBG associate had been playing both sides, trading information with enemies for personal gain or safety. What made this believable to some was how clean the hit was. This wasn't the wild spray everything shooting style that had marked earlier attempts on his life. Whoever did it got close enough to fire accurately and then disappear without hitting anyone else. It had the feel of someone knowing where he'd be and when, which meant the shooter didn't have to search the neighborhood, they just had to show up. Adding fuel was the fact that Pappy had posted cryptic lines in the weeks before, like, "Everything ain't what it seemed," and friends recalled him saying he was watching who he trusted, whether that was paranoia from constant beef or a sign he knew something was coming. Nobody could say for sure, but for those who believed in the backdoor theory, those words looked like a warning he couldn't act on fast enough. If you followed the history, this was the most obvious suspect list. The conservative vice lords had been after Pappy since at least the Devon Avenue shooting in July 2014, when CVL member Eric Vaughn spotted him in daylight and set 2 teen shooters, Denzel Burke and Michael Phillips, on him. They chased Pappy down the street, firing 10 rounds, missing him entirely, but killing 28-year-old photographer Will Lewis with a stray bullet. That murder had brought massive media coverage and made Pappy's name even hotter with police. The Vaughn Burke Phillips arrests didn't erase the CVL grudge. In fact, the street view was that it made it worse. Vaughn was already facing charges from other shootings, and word was that losing Pappy that day had been a major embarrassment. For a crew that prided itself on its reach, missing a target that publicly mocked their aim was a hit to their reputation. Pappy didn't help matters. After that incident, he went harder with the taunts, both in music and online. In Shooters and other tracks, he made references to his rival's bad aim, doubling down on insults that the CVLs took personally. Social media posts weren't subtle. There were direct name drops and laughing emojis, pictures of him in rival territory, captions daring them to try again. The Uptown hit style also fit the CVL profile in some people's minds. 2 clean shots from behind, no stray rounds hitting random bystanders this time. It looked like a correction of the Devon Avenue mess. And Uptown wasn't CVL territory, but it was close enough to reach with a quick in and out run, especially for a crew that had been tracking him for months. The car witnesses mentioned, a black sedan, matched descriptions seen in past CVL-linked shootings on the north side. While police never confirmed a match, Street Talk said the same type of vehicle had been spotted on surveillance after other Vice Lord missions. The Black P Stones, particularly sets tied to the north side, were another name in the mix. While the Stones and PBG weren't in a constant back and forth, like with the CVLs, there had been crossovers and flare-ups. Some of this dated back to the death of Pooh Bear, a close friend of Pappy and namesake for the Pooh Bear gang. The killing had deepened multiple beef lines, and some said certain P-Stone members had either been involved or had aligned themselves with the killers. Pappy's lyrics often took aim at the Stones when he mentioned the North Side's gang scene. In videos, he had been seen in areas close to Stone territory, throwing up PBG signs and calling out their crews directly to the Stones, especially those with long memories of neighborhood wars. That was enough to keep him on the list. There was also the factor of mutual allies turning into enemies. Some individuals who had once moved between PBG and Stone circles without drama found themselves forced to pick sides as tensions grew. In that split, grudges formed that weren't always public, making a targeted hit possible without it being obvious from the outside. While the Stones didn't have as high profile a failed attempt on Pappy as the CVLs did, the theory here leaned on the idea of quiet patience. They let other crews take the spotlight while waiting for a moment when the heat was lower, then sent someone in to make it quick. The low round count and execution style approach on Kenmore Avenue fit that possibility, especially if it was done by someone who didn't want to draw the same kind of police swarm that followed the Devon Avenue chaos. Lock City and Hula Gang were 2 names that didn't dominate headlines the way CVLs or Stones did, but in the local beef web, they had weight. Both operated in areas that had seen run-ins with PBG, and both had members who'd been mentioned in diss tracks or online spats. Lock City, with its roots tied to certain conservative Vice Lord networks, had indirect ties to the Devon Avenue shooting fallout. Some of their younger members were said to have run with or assisted CVL shooters in spotting targets. Hula Gang, based out of the West Rogers Park and Uptown border area, had their own set of conflicts, smaller, more personal, but still heated. Pappy had mocked them on occasion, lumping them in with all the ops on the north. The theory here wasn't about an old headline-grabbing beef, but rather a fresh opportunity. Both Lock City and Hula Gang had members who moved quietly, not posting much online, not taking the bait in public. That made them dangerous in a different way. If they wanted Pappy gone, they could have coordinated with a small circle, avoided the messy bravado, and handled it in a clean, surgical manner, much like the Kenmore Avenue hit ended up being. Street Talk after the murder included a few whispered names from these sets. Not enough for police to act on, but enough for people in the know to side-eye certain corners for weeks afterward. The overlap between Lock City, Hula-affiliated members, and CVL allies made it even harder to pin down who, if anyone from these crews, had a hand in it. The deepest, most uncomfortable conversations didn't happen on social media. They happened in private, between people who'd known Pappy since he was a kid, and those conversations sometimes landed on names nobody outside the circle would expect. The inside setup theory had already touched on this, but some people expanded it to include even more possibilities. PBG was tight, but it wasn't immune to fractures. There had been talk of disputes over music money. Who was funding what? Who was profiting? Who was owed? A few members reportedly felt like Pappy's growing fame was outpacing the group's overall benefit, especially with police heat constantly circling their blocks because of him. One whispered suspect was a guy Pappy had grown up with, but had recently stopped hanging with as much. Another was someone who'd been in the room for tense arguments about how shows and music videos were being run. Even some of the younger affiliates, hungry for clout and eager to prove themselves, were said to have been reckless with information, talking too much in front of people who weren't really family. There was also the uncomfortable possibility that a friend's associate, not a PBG member directly, but someone who was around enough to blend in, could have been the leak. In that case, the killer might have been a hired hand from outside the immediate beef lines, someone brought in just to execute the hit and vanish. This theory was the hardest for people who
Nah, bro, I got this fucking error on.
Loved Pappy to swallow, because it meant the danger didn't come from blocks away. It might have been sitting right next to him in a studio or a car. By the time the sun came up on May 29, 2015, the streets already had their theories locked in, their suspects lined up, their own verdicts handed down. But the thing about Chicago in those years, and especially the North Side in that moment, was that truth and rumor moved in the same breath. Every name on every list had a reason to be there. Every crew had a motive, and every person in Pappy's circle had to look over their shoulder twice as hard because if the man they called the face of PBG could get dropped in the middle of Uptown without warning, then anyone could. The cops had their statements, the media had their headlines, and the streets had their own version of events, but none of them matched perfectly. And that's the thing. In Chicago, especially in those days, the real story almost never came out in the open. It stayed where the bullets came from, the shadows. Pappy's murder sent a shockwave through Rogers Park, Uptown, and every set that had crossed paths with PBG. The grief inside his circle turned to rage almost immediately, and within days, the streets were already whispering about who was next. Friends, allies, and even loose associates began treating every Facebook status, every Instagram post, as a potential spark for bloodshed. The first major retaliation came just 4 days later, on June 2nd, 2015. Jermel Dossie, a known PBG affiliate, spotted 24-year-old Clifton Fry in Uptown. Fry had made what was seen as a disrespectful Facebook comment about Pappy's death, and in the tense, grief-fueled environment, that was enough to seal his fate. Witnesses later told police they heard Dossie confront Fry, and within seconds, shots rang out. Fry was hit multiple times and died at the scene. For PBG, this was framed as payback, a message to anyone thinking about mocking their loss online. The summer heat only made things worse. On July 17, 2015, the violence escalated again when PBG's Lil Sean targeted Valen Francis, a man believed to have ties to one of PBG's rival networks. Reports said Francis was standing outside with family when Sean approached. There was no argument, no long exchange, just gunfire in front of witnesses, including children. Francis died in his own neighborhood, and the brazenness of the killing cemented the idea that PBG wasn't interested in cooling down after Pappy's death. Other shootings rippled across the north side that year, each one linked in some way to the chain reaction set off by the Kenmore Avenue hit. Some were targeted strikes on known rivals, others were more chaotic, sparked by chance encounters at gas stations, bus stops, or corner stores. The names of crews like CVL, Lock City, and Hula Gang kept surfacing in connection to these incidents, but proving direct ties was nearly impossible. By late 2015 and into 2016, the Chicago Police Department made it clear they were treating PBG as a priority target. They already had files thick with social media screenshots, arrest records, and surveillance photos. But now they were stacking those files with fresh warrants and coordinated raids. Every arrest was another attempt to take a shooter off the street, and the department made no secret of their belief that removing key PBG figures could slow the violence. The pressure mounted year after year. By 2018, the combined toll of jail time, probation violations, and street killings had gutted PBG's core. Jermel Dossie was serving time for the Fry murder. Lil Sean was also locked up, facing a lengthy sentence for Francis's killing. Bang Dahida had dealt with his own legal troubles, and other recognizable names from the PBG videos had either relocated, been taken out in shootings, or fallen into the system. The once tight circle that had rallied around Pappy's music was fractured, spread out, and struggling to maintain the same presence. But the thing about these wars was that they rarely ended neatly. Even with so many key members gone, the grudges lived on. Younger affiliates took up the PBG name. Old beef simmered in online posts, and the street stayed alert for the next wave. For some, Pappy's death became a rallying point, a reason to keep the fight alive. For others, it was proof that staying in too deep for too long could only end one way. By the time the dust settled on those first few years after May 29th, 2015, the city had changed, but the cycle hadn't. Uptown and Rogers Park were still hotspots on the police map, and PBG's name still carried both respect and fear.
Bro. That
Pappy was gone, but the war he left behind was still finding new soldiers to fight. By 2018, the story of young Pappy had already crossed from street legend to cautionary tale, told in barbershops, back porches, and online forums. His music still lived on YouTube, tracks like Homicide and Shooters, racking up millions of views, serving as both an anthem for some and a grim reminder for others. Younger rappers in the Northside drill scene credited him for showing that Uptown and Rogers Park could have a voice in a movement often dominated by the South Side. Within PBG, his absence left a hole that was never fully filled. Budouble kept recording, dropping tracks that sometimes carried Pappy's unreleased verses, almost like keeping his voice alive in the booth. Lil Sean, after his own arrest, was remembered for his loyalty and the path he took after Pappy's death. For many of their friends, the years after 2015 felt like a slow fade, more funerals, more mugshots, fewer moments of celebration. Outside the circle, community leaders and even some former rivals admitted that Pappy's charisma could have taken him far if the streets hadn't kept him locked in a cycle. Chicago police still used his name when talking about how social media fueled violence, pointing to his online taunts as examples in community meetings. Yet among fans, he was remembered as someone who spoke exactly how he lived, with no filter, no disguise. Today, murals in Uptown and Rogers Park carry his face, painted alongside candles and tags that read, Pappy Gang. For the people who grew up with him, the story isn't just about how he died, but about the energy he brought every time he stepped into a room or a recording booth. That's the part of the legacy they want to keep alive.
Fuck that boy. Hey, man, I ain't gonna lie. Fuck Pappy. That shit was boring. Bro, they get to the main problem. Like, get to the main shit, gang. Hey, yo, hit that super chat to catch it. Let's get it. One thing about it, though, bro. They was right. His talent was second to none, bro. His talent was definitely he was definitely cold, but I don't know, bro. Asking who killed motherfucking you know what I'm saying? It's just like saying who killed Jimmy Hoffa. Nobody knows. I don't think Pappy had one hat. What the fuck? Yeah, I don't think. Yeah, he never had. I don't think. But I don't know. What do I know? I'm not from around there. I don't know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? I really don't know. Hit that super chat, that cash up. Let's get it. Hey, I don't have no idea. I ain't gonna even sit there and lie to you, gang. If y'all got some reactions, send them in. Any cash app, super chat, send them in. Send them in. Hold on, y'all. Let me turn my air down because I need to get. I'm in this bitch still, bro. I ain't went a while. He said, fuck Pappy, damn. I don't know what happened. I think that was AI, bro. That wasn't me. That was AI. And AI kept saying fuck Pappy. He was spamming it. I didn't know what happened. If that was 2012, the cameraman and Shark. The Shark would have guessed switch. Everybody. Yeah, facts. Oh, excuse me. Good over here. I ain't worried about nothing. Yeah, boy, it was all fucked up. What up, Cloud? What up, gang? What up, talking about members in this bitch, man? What y'all need reacting to, man? Y'all better, put it on the floor. Put it on the floor. Mama called out. But yeah, if y'all anybody sitting in there, man, we'll link up tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm gonna do earlier, bro. I'm gonna do earlier stream. And we're gonna do Ratlanta Trap Floor Ross. You know what I'm saying? That's like a 2-hour video. Like I gotta do that. I gotta start early. So I might start then. You start with 9. So I'm gonna start that like 6 p.m. You know? You know? We're gonna get it right around that time type shit. You know what I'm saying? I love y'all, man. You know what I'm saying? Love all, trust none, keep it going, you know?